YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for Power Rangers Prime Issue 7. So this was a solid issue. It's kind of one of those in-between issues where nothing terribly eventful happened. We did technically get an introduction of a cute new little character, which I'll talk about at the beginning. But overall, it was kind of one of those like stepping stone issues before we get to more major events. It's kind of interesting because of how comics are. You know, we don't get a new issue every week. You kind of have this slow build, so we're kind of having to like slowly build towards the team. And I'm really interested and eager to get to a place where we have the status quo set. Obviously, this is very complicated, and I don't want us to have the traditional Sentai Ranger Kumbaya setup or anything. Like, it's not like I want everyone to get along perfectly, but I want to see all the Rangers together and see how it feels just having this team together with their conflicts, because like right now they've just morphed, but they're still not fully together. I understand they have to take time for it, but it's kind of funny because in comparison to when we started the original MMPR comics, we didn't have to worry about that because everything was already set in place for us, but here we have to actually set the table, and I'm really curious and excited to eventually get the status quo together. We start off this issue with introducing us to a fun little T-Rex buddy, which I'm not sure if it's just going to remain this little T-Rex buddy. I can't remember what the name of it is, but or if it's going to like lead to the Zords. I can't remember if we've seen Zords yet. I feel like I have a memory of it, but it could be a memory of us showing Zords for other series like the Godzilla thing. We got Zords for those, but I imagine we'll get Zords at some point. Regardless, we have this fun little T-Rex buddy that's being created, very much reminding me of Mini Tira, as well as, I can't remember the name of the T-Rex from Ryusoldier, but kind of being like a T-Rex little helper bot. He's holding what looks to be a Cocker Ranger sword for some reason, and they built him at the beginning, and they set that up for them running into him later when they need help and they're on the run. Something I encountered in this issue was, I was confused at the beginning because you have Rita and the Pink Ranger, and at first I thought it was Lauren. I'm like, okay, this is Lauren, and then I'm like, wait, Lauren wasn't with them. I think that's the problem with pink and red suits looking so similar, and sometimes comics will, you know, play with the shading and the color so it won't always be flat. So I could very well see this being the Red Ranger just drawn with a really light shade of red, so I got confused for a second. I kind of wish those suits were a little different. We did run into something like that with Kyoryuger, with green and red's helmets being so similar, but obviously green being such a distinctly different color, it was hard to mix them up. Oddly enough, you had that dumb, there's two Blue Rangers confusion back with Kyuranger, but I did happen to notice that, because then we do catch up with Lauren later as she finds this sort of underground area. It kind of reminded me of the Alien Underground from Ben 10 Omniverse, but there's been obviously tons of different sci-fi series that kind of have a, you know, alien type of underground where mutants are. We meet a mutant character that's initially in conflict with the Pink Ranger. I think it was Orion. Orion's pink, right? And they're initially fighting, but then they kind of come to an understanding and talk about like who's fallen through the cracks in society. It's funny because this guy looks like a dinosaur, I think, if I remember right, and I wasn't even thinking about, like when he said mutant, I was just thinking of mutant creatures underneath the city, and I wasn't even thinking about the Time Force connection, that mutants exist, or a version of them, which is really interesting, another interesting lore beat to play from. But they run into Lauren at this black market when she finds her father's samurai morpher and is kind of reigniting her search for her relatives and I assume team. And they unite there, and then they're taking off together at the end. But while they are doing that, we do have Valentina and June at this party, kind of reaffirming their dynamics with their family and stuff, as well as the conflict with Valentina and Ryan, the VR Trooper, because they're in a relationship and on opposing sides. I'm pretty sure they're just going to end up working together at the end, because it definitely seems like the VR Troopers think they're the good guys and don't really realize that they're kind of following an evil agenda or an oppressive agenda. So we know they're all going to team up at the end, but that's certainly interesting. And when I was catching up and reading this issue, I kept thinking in my mind, why does the name Valentina seem so familiar? Every time I read the name, I feel like I can hear someone saying the name in my head that's coming from a movie or TV show, but I couldn't remember it until today, and I remembered it's because of Thunderbolts with the Valentina character, and I keep now hearing Elena saying, "Is shit, Valentina." So now I'm going to think that every time I see her. Also, it got me thinking how I really do like that we've brought in the VR Troopers, and I really kind of hope that eventually over the run we could find a way to bring in the other Saban series. Not so much Mystic Knights unless it was like a weird flashback. Could they even do Masked Rider? I know they used an Edenoid character in a flashback during the Power Rangers comic with the Omegas, but could they actually use Masked Rider if they wanted to? I'm not even saying do a full spin-off, but if they could do it, it would be really neat for a one-off. And it would be cool to maybe somehow bring in the Beetleborgs. Maybe they would just be Machine Empire lackeys like you had with Shadowborg. Or maybe you could do some sort of lore explanation. Like, that's something I loved with the comics, is they actually did lore explanations of stuff like why Malagor and Dark Spectre look the same. Like, what if they did a lore explanation as to why the Beetleborgs looked like the Machine Empire and vice versa? That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, Overall, still enjoying this. There's not a ton to talk about in this comic issue just because, like I said, it's kind of one of those stepping stone issues. I'm really eager, like I said, to get to the status quo. But right now, I really love that we have this comic. As much as I was loving getting an enhanced, better version of MMPR and liked the idea of seeing the Boom version of all of that, I love that we have this kind of new territory with new suits, very MMPR leaning, but new suits that's pulling in lore from all these different places where there's probably new readers, I almost said viewers, that can pick this up without being confused, but like us fans can really enjoy, like, oh, that's a Time Force connection, you know, that's a Alien Rangers connection. So I'm really enjoying that. But let me know what you're thinking of the comic so far, as always. Till next time, Dawson Ryder signing out.